Chapter 12, Miss Skeeter. Every other night for the next 2 weeks, I tell Mother I'm off to feed the hungry at the Canton Presbyterian Church, where we fortunately know not a soul. Of course, she'd rather I go down to the First Presbyterian, but Mother's not one to argue with Christian works, and she nods approvingly and tells me on the side to make sure I wash my hands thoroughly with soap afterwards. Hour after hour, in Abilene's kitchen, she reads her writing and I type, the details thickening, the baby's faces sliding into focus. At first, I'm disappointed that Abeline is doing most of the writing, with me just editing. But if Mrs. Stein likes it, I'll be writing the other maid stories, and that will be more than enough work. If she likes it. I find myself saying this over and over in my head, hoping it might make it so. Abeline's writing is clear, honest. I tell her so. Well, look who I've been writing to, she chuckles. Can't lie to God. Before I was born, she actually picked cotton for a week at Longleaf, my own family's farm. Once, she lapses into talking about Constantine without my even asking. Law, that Constantine could sing, like a purebred angel standing in front of the church. Give everybody chills listening to that silky voice of hers. And when she wouldn't sing no more after she gave her baby to... She stops and looks at me. She says, Anyway, I tell myself not to press her. I wish I could hear everything she knows about Constantine, but I'll wait until we've finished her interviews. I don't want to put anything between us now. Any word from Minnie yet? I ask. If Mrs. Stein likes it, I say, practically chanting the familiar words. I just want to have the next interview set up and ready. Abeline shakes her head. I asked Minnie 3 times, and she still says she ain't going to do it. I expect it's time I believed her. I try not to show my worry. Maybe you could ask some others, see if they're interested. I'm positive that Abeline would have better luck convincing someone than I would. Abeline nods. I got some more I can ask, but how long do you think it's going to take for this lady to tell you if she likes it? I shrug. I don't know. If we mail it next week, maybe we'll hear from her by mid-February, but I can't say for sure. Abeline presses her lips together, looks down at her pages. I see something that I haven't noticed before. Anticipation, a glint of excitement. I've been so wrapped up in my own self, it hasn't occurred to me that Abeline might be as thrilled as I am that an editor in New York is going to read her story. I smile and take a deep breath, my hope growing stronger. On our 5th session, Abeline reads to me about the day Treelor died. She reads about how his broken body was thrown on the back of a pickup by a white foreman. And then they dropped him off at the Black Hospital. That's what the nurse told me, who was standing outside. They rolled him off the truck bed, and the white men drove away. Abeline doesn't cry, just lets a parcel of time pass while I stare at the typewriter, she at the worn black tiles. On the 6th session, Abeline says, I went to work for Miss Leafold in 1960, when May Mobley 2 weeks old, and I feel I've passed through a leaden gate of confidence. She describes the building of the garage bathroom, admits she's glad it's there now. It's easier than listening to Hilly complain about sharing a toilet with the maid. She tells me that I once commented that black people attend too much church, that it stuck with her. I cringe, wondering what else I've said, never suspecting the help was listening or cared. One night she says, I was thinking, and then she stops. I look up from the typewriter and wait. It took Abeline vomiting on herself for me to learn to let her take her time. I was thinking I ought to do some reading. Might help me with my own writing. Go down to the State Street Library. They have a whole room full of Southern writers. Faulkner, Eudora Welty. Abeline gives me a dry cough. You know black folks ain't allowed in that library. I sit there a second feeling stupid. I can't believe I forgot that. The black library must be pretty bad. There was a sit-in at the white library a few years ago, and it made the papers. When the black crowd showed up for the sit-in trial, the police department simply stepped back and turned the German shepherds loose. I look at Abeline and am reminded, once again, the risk she's taking talking to me. I'll be glad to pick up books for you, I say. Abeline hurries to the bedroom and comes back with a list. I better mark the ones I want first. I've been on the waiting list for To Kill a Mockingbird at the Carver Library near about 3 months now. And let's see. I watch as she puts check marks next to books. The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. Poems by Emily Dickinson. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I read some of that back in school, but I didn't get to finish. She keeps marking, stopping to think which one she wants next. You want a book by Sigmund Freud? Oh, people crazy, she nods. I love reading about how the head works. You ever dream you fall in a lake? He say you dreaming about your own self being born. Miss Frances, who I worked for in 1957, she had all them books. On her 12th title, I have to know. Abeline, how long have you been wanting to ask me this? If I'd check these books out for you? A while, she shrugs. I guess I was afraid to mention it. Did you think I'd say no? These is white rules. I didn't know which ones you followin' and which ones you ain't. We look at each other a second. I'm tired of the rules, I say. Abeline chuckles and looks out the window. I realize how thin this revelation must sound to her. For 4 days straight, I sit at my typewriter in my bedroom. 20 of my typed pages, full of slashes and red circled edits, become 31 on thick Strathmore white. I write a short biography of Sarah Ross, the name Abeline chose, after a sixth grade teacher who died years ago. I include her age, what her parents did for a living. I follow this with Abeline's own stories, just as she wrote them, simple, straightforward. On day 3, Mother calls up the stairs to ask what in the world I'm doing up there all day, and I holler down, just typing up some notes from Bible study, just writing down all the things I love about Jesus. I hear her tell Daddy in the kitchen after supper, she's up to something. I carry my little white baptism Bible around the house to make it more believable. I read and reread and then take the pages to Abeline in the evenings, and she does the same. She smiles and nods over the nice parts where everyone gets along fine, but on the bad parts she takes off her black reading glasses and says, I know I wrote it, but you really want to put that in about the... And I say, yes, I do. But I'm surprised myself by what's in these stories. Of separate refrigerators at the governor's mansion. Of white women throwing 2-year-old fits over wrinkled napkins. White babies calling Abeline Mama. At 3 a.m., with only 2 white correction marks on what is now 27 pages, I slide the manuscript into a yellow envelope. Yesterday, I made a long-distance phone call to Mrs. Stein's office. Her secretary, Ruth, said she was in a meeting. She took down my message that the interview is on its way. There was no call back from Mrs. Stein today. I hold the envelope to my heart and almost weep from exhaustion, doubt. I mail it at the Canton P.O. the next morning. I come home and lie down on my old iron bed, worrying over what will happen if she likes it. What if Elizabeth or Hilly catches us at what we're doing? What if Abeline gets fired, sent to jail? I feel like I'm falling down a long spiral tunnel. God, would they beat her the way they beat the boy who used the white bathroom? What am I doing? Why am I putting her at such a risk? I go to sleep. I have nightmares for the next 15 hours straight. It's 1:15, and Hilly and Elizabeth and I are sitting at Elizabeth's dining room table, waiting on Luann to show up. I've had nothing to eat today except Mother's sexual correction tea, and I feel nauseous, jumpy. My foot is wagging under the table. I've been like this for 10 days, ever since I mailed Abeline's stories to Elaine Stein. I called once, and Ruth said that she'd passed it on to her 4 days ago, but still, I've heard nothing. Is this just not the rudest thing you've ever heard of? Hilly looks at her watch and scowls. This is Luann's second time to be late. She won't last long in our group with Hilly around. Abeline walks in the dining room, and I do my best not to look at her for too long. I'm afraid Hilly or Elizabeth will see something in my eyes. Stop jiggling your foot, Skeeter. You're shaking the whole entire table, Hilly says. Abeline moves around the room in her easy, white uniform stride, not showing even a hint of what we've done. I guess she's grown deft at hiding her feelings. Hilly shuffles and deals out a hand of gin rummy. I try to concentrate on the game, but little facts keep jumping into my head every time I look at Elizabeth. About May Mobley using the garage bathroom. How Abeline can't keep her lunch in the Leafolds' refrigerator. Small details I'm privy to now. Abeline offers me a biscuit from a silver tray. She fills my iced tea like we're the strangers we're meant to be. I've been to her house twice since I mailed the package to New York, both times to trade out her library books. She still wears the same green dress with black piping when I come over. Sometimes she'll slip off her shoes under the table. Last time she pulled out a pack of Montclairs and smoked right there with me in the room, and that was kind of something, the casualness of it. I had one too. Now she's clearing away my crumbs with the sterling silver scraper I gave to Elizabeth and Rowley for their wedding. Well, while we wait, I have some news, Elizabeth says, and I recognize a look on her face already. The secretive nod, one hand on her stomach. I'm pregnant. She smiles, her mouth trembling a little. That's great, I say. I put down my cards and touch her arm. She truly looks like she might cry. When do you do? October. Well, it's about time, Hilly says, giving her a hug. May Mobley's practically grown. Elizabeth lights a cigarette and sighs. She looks down at her cards. We're all real excited. While we play a few practice hands, Hilly and Elizabeth talk about baby names. I try to contribute to the conversation. Definitely Rally if it's a boy, I add. Haley talks about William's campaign. He's running for state senate next year, even though he has no political experience. I'm grateful when Elizabeth tells Aibileen to go ahead and serve lunch. When Aibileen comes back in with the gelatin salad, Haley straightens in her chair. Aibileen, I have an old coat for you and a sack of clothes from Mrs. Walter's house. She dabs her mouth with her napkin. So you come on out to the car after lunch and pick it up, all right? Yes, ma'am. Don't forget now. I can't worry with bringing him by again. Oh, now, isn't that nice of Miss Hilly, Aibileen? Elizabeth nods. You go on and get those clothes right after we're done. Yes, ma'am. Hilly raises her voice about 3 octaves higher when she talks to black people. Elizabeth smiles like she's talking to a child, although certainly not her own. I'm starting to notice these things. By the time Luann Templeton shows up, we've finished our shrimp and grits and are just starting on dessert. Hilly is amazingly forgiving. Luann was late after all because of a league duty. Afterward, I tell Elizabeth congratulations again and walk out to my car. Aibileen's outside collecting her gently used coat from 1942 and my old clothes that, for some reason, Hilly won't give to her own maid, Neil May. Hilly strides over to me and hands me an envelope. For the newsletter next week. You'll be sure to get it in for me. I nod and Hilly walks back to her car. Just as Aibileen opens the front door to go back to the house, she glances back my way. I shake my head and mouth the word, nothing. She nods and goes on in the house. That night, I work on the newsletter, wishing I was working on the stories instead. I go through the notes from the last league meeting and come across Hilly's envelope. I open it. It's 1 page, written in Hilly's fat, curly pen. Hilly Holbrook introduces the Home Help Sanitation Initiative, a disease preventative measure. Low-cost bathroom installation in your garage or shed for homes without such important fixtures. Ladies, did you know that 99% of all black diseases are carried in the urine? Whites can become permanently disabled by nearly all of these diseases because we lack immunities that black people carry in their darker pigmentation. Some germs carried by whites can also be harmful to black people too. Protect yourself, protect your children, protect your health. From the Holbrooks, we say, you're welcome. The phone rings in the kitchen and I practically fall over myself racing to it. But Pascagoula has already answered it. Miss Charlotte Residence. I stare her down and watch as tiny Pascagoula nods and says, Yes, ma'am, she's here, and hands me the phone. This is Eugenia, I say quickly. Daddy's in the fields and Mother's at a doctor's appointment in town, so I stretch the black, twisting phone cord to the kitchen table. Elaine Stein here. I breathe deep. Yes, ma'am. Did you receive my package? I did, she says, and then she breathes into the phone a few seconds. This Sarah Ross. I like her stories. She likes to kvetch without complaining too much. I nod. I don't know what kvetch means, but I think it must be good. But I still stand by my opinion that a book of interviews, ordinarily it wouldn't work. It's not fiction, but it's not nonfiction either. Perhaps it's anthropological, but that's a ghastly category to be in. But you liked it? Eugenia, she says, exhaling her cigarette smoke into the phone. Have you seen the cover of Life magazine this week? I haven't seen the cover of Life magazine in a month. I've been so busy. Martin Luther King, dear. He just announced a march on D.C., invited every black person in America to join him. Every white person, for that matter. This many black and white people haven't worked together since Gone with the Wind. Yes, I did hear about the marching event. I lie. I cover my eyes, wishing I'd read the paper this week. I sound like an idiot. My advice to you is write it and write it fast. The march is in August. You should have it written by New Year's. I gasp. She's telling me to write it. She's telling me. Are you saying you'll publish it? If I can write it by. I said nothing of the sort, she snaps. I'll read it. I look at 100 manuscripts a month and reject nearly all of them. Sorry, I'll write it, I say. I just have it finished in January. And 4 or 5 interviews won't be enough for a book. You'll need a dozen, maybe more. You have more interviews set up, I assume. I press my lips together. Some more. Good, then get going before this whole civil rights thing blows over. That evening, I go to Abeline's. I hand her 3 more books from her list. My back hurts from leaning over the typewriter. This afternoon, I wrote down everyone I know who has a maid, which is everyone I know, and their maid's name. But some of the names I can't remember. Thank you. Oh la, look at this. She smiles and flips to the first page of Walden. Looks like she wants to start reading it right there. I spoke to Mrs. Stein this afternoon, I say. Abeline's hands freeze on the book. I knew something was wrong. I seen it on your face. I take a deep breath. She said she likes your stories very much, but she won't say if she'll publish it until we've written the whole thing. I try to look optimistic. We have to be finished just after the new year. But that's good news, ain't it? I nod and try to smile. January, Abeline whispers, and then she gets up and leaves the kitchen. She comes back with a Tom's Candy Wall calendar. She sets it down on the table and flips through the months. Seems a long way off now, but January ain't but 2, 4, 6, 10 pages away. Gonna be here before we know it. She grins. She said we have to interview at least 12 maids for her to consider it, I say. The strain in my voice is starting to really come through. But you ain't got any other maids to talk to, Miss Skeeter. I clench my hands and close my eyes. I don't have anyone I can ask, Abeline. I say, my voice rising. I spent the last 4 hours poring over this very fact. I mean, who is there? Pascagoula? If I talk to her, Mama will find out. I'm not the one who knows the other maids. Abeline's eyes drop from mine so fast I want to cry. Damn it, Skeeter. Any barrier that eroded between us these past few months, I have just built back up in a matter of seconds. I'm sorry, I say quickly. I'm sorry I raised my voice. No, it's all right. That was my job, to get the others. What about Luann's maid? I say quietly, pulling out my list. What's her name? Lavinia. Do you know her? Abeline nods. I asked Lavinia. Her eyes are still in her lap. Her grandson's the one that got blinded. She say she real sorry, but she have to keep him on her mind. And Hilly's maid, Yo May. You've asked her? She say she too busy trying to get her boys into college next year. Any other maids that go to your church? Have you asked them? Abeline nods. They all got excuses, but really, they just too scared. But how many? How many have you asked? Abeline picks up her notebook, flips through the pages. Her lips move, counting silently. 31, Abeline says. I let out my breath. I didn't know that I'd been holding it. That's a lot, I say. Abeline finally meets my look. I didn't want to tell you, she says, and her forehead wrinkles. Until we heard from the lady. She takes off her glasses. I can see the deep worry in her face. She tries to hide it with a trembling smile. I'm going to ask him again, she says, leaning forward. All right, I sigh. She swallows hard, nods rapidly to make me understand how much she means it. Please don't give up on me. Let me stay on the project with you. I close my eyes. I need a break from seeing her worried face. How could I have raised my voice to her? Abeline, it's all right. We're together on this. A few days later, I sit in the hot kitchen, bored, smoking a cigarette, something I can't seem to stop doing lately. I think I might be addicted. That's a word Mr. Golden likes to use. These idiots are all addicts. He calls me in his office every once in a while, scans the month's articles with a red pencil, marking and slashing and grunting. That's fine, he'll say. You fine? I'm fine, I say. Fine then. And before I leave, the fat receptionist hands me my $10 check, and that's pretty much it for my Miss Myrna job. The kitchen's hot, but I have to get out of my room, where all I do is worry about 'cause no other maids have agreed to work with us. Plus, I have to smoke in here because it's the only room in the house without a ceiling fan to blow ashes everywhere. When I was 10, Daddy tried to install one in the tin kitchen ceiling without asking Constantine. She'd pointed to it like he'd parked the Ford on the ceiling. It's for you, Constantine, so you don't get so hot being up in the kitchen all the time. I ain't working in no kitchen with no ceiling fan, Mr. Carlton. Sure you will. I'm just hooking it up to the current now. Daddy climbed down the ladder. Constantine filled the pot with water. Go ahead, she sighed. Turn it on then. Daddy flipped the switch. In the seconds it took to really get going, cake flour blew up from the mixing bowl and swirled around the room. Recipes flopped off the counter and caught fire on the stovetop. Constantine snatched the burning roll of parchment paper and quickly dipped it in the bucket of water. There's still a hole where the ceiling fan hung for all about 10 minutes. In the newspaper, I see State Senator Whitworth pointing to an empty lot of land where they plan to build a new city coliseum. I turn the page. I hate being reminded of my date with Stuart Whitworth. Pascagoula pads into the kitchen. I watch as she cuts out biscuits with a shot glass that's never shot a thing but short dough. Behind me, the kitchen windows are propped open with Sears, Roebuck, and Co catalogs. Pictures of $2 hand mixers and mail order toys flutter in a breeze, swollen and puckered from a decorative rain. Maybe I should ask Pascagoula. Maybe Mother wouldn't find out. But who am I kidding? Mother watches her every move, and Pascagoula seems afraid of me anyway, like I might tell on her if she does something wrong. It could take years to break through that fear. My best sense tells me leave Pascagoula out of this. My phone rings like a fire alarm. Pascagoula clangs her spoon on the bowl, and I grab the receiver before she can. Minnie's gonna help us, Aibileen whispers. I slip into the pantry and sit on my flour can. I can't speak for about 5 seconds. When? When can she start? Next Thursday, but she got some requirements. What are they? Aibileen pauses a moment. She says she don't want your Cadillac anywhere this side of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. All right, I say. I guess I could drive the truck in. And she say you can't sit on the same side of the room as her. She want to be able to see you square on at all times. I'll sit wherever she wants me to. Abileen's voice softens. She just don't know you is all. Plus, she ain't got a real good history with white ladies. Whatever I have to do, I'll do it. I walk out of the pantry beaming, hang up the phone on the wall. Pascagoula's watching me, the shot glass in one hand, a raw biscuit in the other. She looks down quickly and goes back to her work. 2 days later, I tell Mother I'm going to pick up a new copy of the King James Bible, since I've worn mine so thin and all. I also tell her I feel guilty driving the Cadillac, what with all those poor, starving babies in Africa, and I've decided to take the old truck today. She narrows her eyes at me from her porch rocker. Where exactly do you plan on buying this new Bible? I blink. They ordered it for me, at the Canton church. She nods and watches me the entire time it takes to start the old truck. I drive to Fair Street with a lawnmower in the back and a rusted out floorboard. Under my feet, I can see flashes of pavement whiz by, but at least I'm not pulling a tractor. Aibileen opens the door, and I come in. In the back corner of the living room, Minnie stands with her arms crossed over her huge bosom. I've met her the few times Hilly allowed Mrs. Walters to host Bridge Club. Minnie and Aibileen are both still in their white uniforms. Hello, I say from the side of the room. Good to see you again. Miss Skeeter, Minnie nods. She settles in a wooden chair, and Aibileen is brought out from the kitchen. The frame creaks. I sit on the far end of the sofa. Aibileen sits on the other end of the sofa between us. I clear my throat and produce a nervous smile. Minnie doesn't smile back. She is fat and short and strong. Her skin is blacker than Aibileen's by 10 shades, and shiny and taut, like a pair of new patent shoes. I already told Minnie how we're doing the stories, Aibileen says to me. You helping me write mine, and hers she gonna tell you while you write them down. And, Minnie, everything you say here's in confidence, I say. You'll get to read everything that we... And what makes you think black people need your help? Minnie stands up, chair scraping. Why do you even care about this? You're white. I look at Aibileen. I've never had a black person speak to me this way. We're all working for the same thing here, Minnie, Aibileen says. We're just talking. And what thing is that? Minnie says to me. Maybe you just want me to tell you all this stuff so I get in trouble. Minnie points to the window. Medgar Evers, the NAACP officer who lived 5 minutes away, they blew up his carport last night for talking. My face is burning red. I speak slowly. We want to show your perspective so people might understand what it's like from your side. We hope it might change some things around here. What do you think you're going to change with this? What law you want to reform so it says you gotta be nice to your maid? Now hold on, I say. I'm not trying to change laws here. I'm just talking about attitudes, and you know what'll happen if they catch us? Forget the time I accidentally used the wrong changing room down at McCrae's women's wear. I'd have guns pointing at my house. There's a still, tight moment in the room, with just the sound of the brown Timex clock ticking on the shelf. You don't have to do this, Minnie, Aileen says. It's all right if you want to change your mind. Slowly, warily, Minnie settles against in her chair. I'll do it. I just want to make sure she understands. This ain't no game we're playing here. I glance at Aileen. She nods at me. I take a deep breath, my hands shaking. I start with the background questions, and somehow we back our way into talking about Minnie's work. She looks at Aileen as she talks, like she's trying to forget I'm even in the room. I record everything she says, my pencil scratching as fast as I can move it. We thought it might be less formal than using a typewriter. Then there's one job where I worked late every night, and you know what happened? What's that? I ask, even though she's looking at Aileen. Oh, Minnie, she catcalls. You are the best help we've ever had. Big Minnie, we're going to keep you on forever. And then one day she said she's going to give me a week of paid vacation. I never had no vacation, paid or unpaid, in my whole life. And when I pull up a week later to go back to work, they gone. Moved to Mobile. She tells somebody she'd scared I'd find new work before she moved. Miss Lazy Fingers couldn't go a day without having a maid waiting on her. And suddenly she throws her bag on her arm. I gotta go. You giving me heart palpitations talking about this. And out she goes, slamming the door behind her. I look up, wipe the sweat off my temple. And that was a good mood, Aileen says.